The rails remember what the history books forgot. Labor Day, 1943. America is at war. Every train, every car, every coach pressed into service. Soldiers kiss wives goodbye on station platforms. Families crowd into seats meant for half their number. The railroads are the arteries of a nation bleeding on two fronts, and they are running at the edge of everything they have. At 4 p.m. sharp, the Congressional Limited departed Washington's Union Station. 541 passengers aboard. 16 cars behind PRRG. One electric locomotive number 4930. One of the most celebrated trains in America. The favorite of senators, generals, and diplomats. Washington to New York in 3.5 hours. That was the promise. Somewhere between Washington and Baltimore, an older dining car was added to the consist. Car number 7. A heavyweight coach of an older design, pressed into service because every car was needed and none could be spared. It would reach Philadelphia. It would not reach New York. If you want to know why America's deadliest peacetime disasters keep happening on the same tracks, decade after decade, subscribe to Rail Hunters USA and hit the bell. And we go where the history books stop. The Pennsylvania Railroad was not just a railroad. It was the self-declared standard railroad of the world. By 1943, it was the largest corporation in the United States by assets. Its main line between New York and Washington carried more passenger miles than any other corridor on Earth. And at its crown jewel sat the Congressional Limited. The Congressional Limited had been operating since 1885. By the 1930s, it was electrified and assigned the magnificent GG1 locomotive, an Art Deco masterpiece designed in part by industrial designer Raymond Loewy. The GG1 was 79 feet long, weighed 475,000 pounds, and could reach 100 miles per hour. And it was not a machine, it was a declaration. But it was wartime. And wartime did something to railroads that prosperity never could. It broke them slowly and invisibly. Traffic had doubled. Maintenance schedules were deferred. Experienced machinists were at war. Older equipment that should have been retired, was oiled down and put back into service because there was nothing else. A journal box is one of the most critical components on a rail car. It houses the axle bearing, the interface between the spinning axle and the stationary frame. Pack it with grease, and it will run for thousands of miles. Let the lubrication fail, and friction builds. Temperatures rise, metal expands. At some point, something has to give. The extra dining car, Car 7, had been added to the consist at Baltimore. Someone inspected it before departure. Or perhaps they did not. The ICC investigation would later find that faulty lubrication was the root cause. But exactly why the journal went dry, that remained. In the words of the investigating engineer, one of the mysteries of railroading. The train moved north, running ahead of schedule. Passengers ate in the diner. Soldiers dozed in the coaches. Somewhere beneath Car 7, temperatures in the journal box were climbing past what any bearing was designed to survive: 900 degrees Fahrenheit. The Congressional passed through North Philadelphia Station slightly ahead of schedule. At a switching yard just west of Frankfort Junction, an engine worker named Harold McClintock saw smoke and flames shooting from beneath Car 7. He picked up the phone. The call went to John Boyer in the shore signal tower. Boyer reached for the warning signal. Before he could pull it, the train was already upon him, and the front axle of Car 7 collapsed. The truck caught the underside of the chassis and launched it upward. Car 8 wrapped itself around a signal gantry in what witnesses described as a figure U. 6 cars. A dense residential neighborhood. High-tension wires brought down across the wreckage. And inside those cars, more than 500 people. Within minutes, residents poured out of their row houses. Civilians began pulling survivors from windows. A priest arrived and administered last rites to those he could not save. Every ambulance in Philadelphia was called. Mayor Bernard Samuel arrived to personally direct operations, and about 200 servicemen aboard the undamaged cars climbed out and immediately formed work teams, pulling debris, carrying stretchers, holding lanterns in the dark. They had shipped out for one war and found themselves in the middle of another. The overhead catenary wires, electrified at 11,000 volts, had been brought down by the wreckage. Rescue workers had to halt repeatedly as electrical crews worked to de-energize the lines. But every delay cost lives. The Interstate Commerce Commission opened its investigation within days. Investigators recovered the journal box from Car 7. The metal showed heating to approximately 900 degrees Fahrenheit. The axle had not simply broken. It had been consumed from the inside out. And the coroner's jury closed its investigation on October 12, 1943. No criminal negligence, no charges, no individual held responsible. 79 people were dead, and the answer was, no one is to blame. Frankfurt Junction. In 1943, it took 79 lives. In 2015, 72 years later, a few hundred yards down the same track, Amtrak train 188 entered a curve at 106 miles per hour and derailed. 8 more people died. The same junction, the same failure to govern speed, the same price. The safety improvements that came from 1943 are real. They work. Journal boxes replaced by roller bearings. The hot box detectors lining every main line. Positive train control watching every axle, every curve, every mile. 79 people died to make them happen. The Congressional Limited made its last run in 1952. The name disappeared from the timetable. But the curve at Frankfurt Junction is still there. And every train that passes through it every day passes through the consequence of what happened there on September 6, 1943. 79 people, 1 journal box, 1 missed warning, and a gap between the technology that existed and the rules that required it. That gap has killed people on American railroads before 1943 and after it. If this story matters to you, subscribe to Rail Hunters USA, because the rails remember what the history books forgot.